Welcome to the Couch to Creator podcast, where we hit record on real-life conversations about all things creator, the wins, the defeats, the industry, the hidden secrets. And today I have with me a crazy talented gaffer, David Chomiak. Thanks for being here, David.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
So, what is a gaffer?
So usually how I describe my role on set is I am the manager of the lighting team. I'm not just a person who knows technical stuff, and I'm not just a person who knows artistic stuff. Most of the time, I'm a person who combines these skills with the ability to assign specific tasks to specific people. So basically, I'm coordinating a group of people, let's say from 3 to 100, depending on the scale of the production that we're talking about. I'm coordinating this whole machine of people in the G&E department. G&E stands for grip and electric, or just lighting department, depends on your country. And I'm just, helping this whole machine just do its job.
So for example, like if we were setting up this podcast, which we actually were, you would be responsible for making all of these lights kind of come together.
Yeah.
And how much of the reason I ask is I think there's obviously, I mean, a lot of our listeners may not know what a gaffer is, but I think even among the film industry, there's a lot of misconceptions about the role. Can you tell us like what is the balance of like the creative side and then like the more technical muscle carrying gear side? Like how does it actually look in practice?
So usually the bigger a production is or a project, the less a gaffer does anything himself. So if it's a very small shoot, let's say I have one lighting technician. So let's say assistant, we just don't really call them assistants, but they are assistants to us. Mm-hmm. Then, I have to do things myself. I have to do some of the, weightlifting, move stands, move lights. But on a bigger production, when the scale is, let's say 50 people in the team, then I don't really have the option, even if I wanted to move stuff, because the complexity of the job requires me to be available mentally 24/7 to the DOP and to my team. So I can't afford to do physical activity.
Do you make a lot of the actual decisions? Like, do you... I'm sure it varies from project to project, but do you actually have a lot of like decision power, let's say? Because I know that, in the traditional sense, a lot of people see like the director and the DOP, director of photography, as like the leaders on set, and not so much always a gaffer. But I guess that actually you have a lot of input how the final image looks.
Yes, I think that a good DOP is a person who, besides all his skills in cinematography and everything, learned how to rely on his team. And that includes the gaffer also. So I have to be able to take a lot of weight off the DOP's chest by him trusting me and me doing decisions, not just technically, but sometimes on the artistic side. This work between and the relationship between a gaffer and DOP is actually a very important thing. Some DOPs allow a lot more freedom to their gaffers. They have more trust, or they're just used to that kind of workflow. Mm-hmm. Some DOPs prefer to have more control over lighting, so they would want to choose, fixtures themselves, like, this light and that light. And some DOPs don't want to, think about fixtures. They want to think about effects, outcomes.
And it's your job to combine the two.
Yeah. When you're gaffing, you're gonna work with many types of DOPs, and you have to kind of get a feel for it, to what degree the DOP needs your, let's say, intrusion into the process. Because some DOPs will want you to only execute a meticulously, planned lighting list that they've done. And some DOPs might want you to do the whole lighting by yourself and, not even ask him questions. Yeah. So it's a really broad spectrum.
Okay. When you arrived, we, perhaps a little bit rudely, hadn't actually set up this podcast space, and asked you and your girlfriend Lena, who is a set designer, so thank you so much for Lena's help too, to help us set up the set, which I thought was, I don't know, maybe a cruel joke, but it was just really cool to get to see your work, and also for the set to reflect a little bit of your personality, a little bit of your style. But I noticed one thing. I noticed that it took you a couple of adjustments to this tube behind us, because you wanted it a certain way. So to me, you seem like quite a perfectionist. Yeah,
That's true, and I'm surprised it's that easy to spot. But I mean, it's not a bad thing. So that's good. I was just surprised how easily that was spotted by you.
Yeah, so
But-
that's what I wanted to ask you about, because I think in different lines of work, perfectionism can be seen as a positive or a negative. And I wanted to ask you about gaffing. Do you see it as a positive, or is it something that can hold you back sometimes?
I see it as a definitely positive. Just because I feel like I would be lost without my approach. Sometimes our job gets really complicated, and the amount of things that we have to think about or know, like exactly, how it was set up 5 shots ago, or because we want to go back to a certain time of day or setup. I feel like if you're kind of lost in your thoughts while doing setups and planning, you might be lost. Your lostness, if I may, might reflect in the end result, because you have to be able to really understand and plan what you will do. So I think my approach might slow down some processes at moments, but I don't think it slows down anything in the end.
Okay.
Because let's say, we took more time to set up a given shot, right? But then the DOP goes, okay, I would like to repeat the previous shot. And
Yeah,
I had the whole thing planned out. I have my PDFs. I have, everything. So it takes me 2 minutes to return to a previous shot. Whereas if it was all, done as quickly as possible without planning, it would be like, oh, what the hell do we do now?
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course,
what was the position? Like, we have no pictures, we have nothing, we
no
don't
reference
know.
to.
Yeah.
So we need to back up a little bit, rewind, and David, if you'd be so kind to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, about how you started, because I mean, I don't think many kids are like running around, oh, I want to be a lighting guy. So yeah, I'm just curious about the story.
It's not your usual thing that kids want, right? It's
Exactly. So tell us a bit about how it started, just your background.
So what's interesting about my relationship with lighting is that I have been always interested in lights and lighting, but it took me quite a long time to realize that this could be a career and not just an interest or a hobby. Ever since I was a kid, I was like collecting flashlights, and like this flashlight does this and that one does that, and like I knew all the car headlights and like this type. I was like 10 years old, and I was like interested in lights in a very obvious way. But I didn't even know the film word back then. I didn't know about film. So I was always interested in all kinds of lights. And then I don't know how old I was, but I've learned about the film industry as it is, and I got interested in how films are made. And I was not interested in film lighting. I didn't even know it existed. I just kind of liked film at some point, and there was a friend of mine in Hungary, because that's where I was born and where I started everything. And we just started to shoot videos like for ourselves, nothing professional. And I figured out that there is, lighting involved in this, like the sun, the curtain on your, window influences how that light will look on the face instead of a harsh light or something. So I dug deeper, I watched YouTube videos, I watched all kinds of, podcasts, maybe like this. So maybe this will just, re-aggregate this, this
honestly,
thing to another person.
There is nothing that would make me happier than somebody who, after listening to this podcast, like is interested in lighting, or I mean, if they start a career in this path, would be insane. But that's like, yeah, that would be insane. That would be awesome.
Yeah, and then there came a point where I basically connected the dots, and it was
filmed,
yeah, and I was like, okay, so I like film, but there's lighting in film. Oh damn, I can do lighting in film.
And actors get paid a lot, right? So surely.
So maybe I didn't even know about the role. Like I didn't know what a gaffer is or a technician or a best boy. I was like, yeah, I want to do lighting in film. So whenever we shot anything, I was only doing lighting. I was like, basically already focusing on this topic.
Nice.
Nice. And step by step, it just became a profession from a hobby, and I let myself, use more and more time to develop these skills. I prioritized this more and more, and as it got more priority, it became better.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, because you just slipped in the best boy term in there. There is a lot of funny language. There is a lot of funny terms that gaffers use. I mean, generally on film sets, but I really wanted to ask you what some of those terms mean. And do you have a list? Well, I know you prepared a list of like the top funniest ones.
I did.
Could you share some of those with our listeners? Because this is what we are waiting for.
Yes, and this is going to be lighting specific even. So not even just film, but actually lighting specific.
Fantastic. Serve them up.
So what you have to, as in every profession, there is lingo and jargon. Only in lighting, it's just a tremendous amount,
and it just seems like you're taking the piss all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was thinking about how or why this develops, and I have no idea why we have all these. I guess it's just natural. We just want to seem cool.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe the long days on set as well. You get bored. You have to kind of raise the morale of the team, and you ask someone to bring you something silly, and all of a sudden a little smile on the face, and you're like,
So usually these lingo and jargon is used for equipment in lighting.
Okay.
Sometimes for ways to execute things.
Like like techniques as well. I know, for example, like a book light. I mean, that's not the silliest one, but like, what's a book light?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Kind of looks like a book, but yeah.
We have ways like, let's say, F the truck, which means you always, with the male end, you go into the generator and pull the power from there. It's
right. Okay.
It's a way of saying you always plug the male end into the Jenny, and that way you pull power, and so just technicians know not to go to the Jenny with the female end.
Men are pigs.
It's But here comes the list, the mighty list. So we have butt plug. It had to be the first one on this list.
So this is case in point, men are pigs.
Yes.
But anyway, we can.
But anyway, so butt plug is basically a converter plug. It's used when you have a combo stand, which means a receiver in the stand. So it's a bigger hole, let's say, in the stand.
Okay.
And you plug the hole with the butt plug. And you have a junior pin coming out of the stand, so you can have smaller fixtures, meaning lights, on bigger stands.
So it's logical. It's not necessarily that you're looking.
It's not far fetched.
It's not far fetched.
No,
I think it's reasonable.
I think it makes sense.
We will allow it.
Yeah. You have the header, which is another way of saying head feeder, which is a cable, which usually goes from your ballast or power supply to the light head.
Okay.
So
that's
a header.
Right, that's right.
Then we have Mambo Combo. Mambo Combo is the biggest combo stand that you have. It's like a huge combo stand.
Oh, kind of. Yeah, okay.
That's why it's a Mambo Combo. So it also, I think we can let it slide. I think it's,
Yeah, we'll allow.
Then we have the best boy.
Yeah, who is a best boy?
So
I mean, I'm the best boy, right?
Of course.
That's good.
So in let's say professional terms, there can be two best boys. There can be a best boy electric and best boy rigging.
Okay.
But
so in terms of grammar, one of them is a best boy, one of them is like a good boy or a better boy, really. But okay, again, let's just agree to disagree.
So, but usually, what we call, when you say best boy, the first thing that comes into mind is the right hand of the gaffer when it comes to gear, electricity, this kind of stuff.
Okay. So it's like a technical, more of a
Yes,
technical
he's
role?
he's a technical person who takes care of the equipment, takes care of your inventory. He usually helps coordinate the lighting technicians. It depends on how big the set is and how many roles we can divide. That's all up to budgeting and fighting with production about having more people. But yes, the best boy is the right hand of the gaffer, basically.
Okay, I have a very important question, and I know that Sal would want to ask this question. Would it be a best girl then if there is a female?
We sometimes
boy.
call them best girls, yes.
Okay, because we obviously want to encourage females to get into the filmmaking space as well. Have you worked with many? Like, what is your take on like the divide, the gender gap? Like, is it still a big thing in film?
I think maybe in film it's not as big as it used to be, but in lighting I think it's just as huge, this gap between males and females,
Yeah.
especially because it involves physical labor. I'm not sure it will change much. Generally, film probably will, but lighting, for some reason,
Yeah, I think
it doesn't really.
It's hard sometimes to move these stereotypes, which obviously build up over years and years. But I mean, I can definitely, like, whenever I work on film sets and I have a diverse. Whenever there's a diverse crew, I can always see the benefit of being able to have completely different viewpoints, and obviously, I'm sure that would be valuable on a bigger team.
more types of people means more insight and more ideas, and we all like ideas, don't we?
Yeah.
Sometimes a person not even related to the topic has an idea, and it becomes the way to do that. So.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Any more lingo?
We have more.
Oh,
we
you
have more.
Okay,
we
let's
do
fire
have more.
through.
So we have hotbox. A hotbox doesn't include anything illegal. It includes a distribution box that is under power or some other equipment that's under power.
Okay.
So
again, they all make sense.
it
right?
makes
They
sense,
all make
right?
Sense, yeah.
It's not far-fetched.
No.
We have blonde and redhead. The reason I'm talking about these together is because these are two types of very classic lights. A blonde is a 2000 watt tungsten fixture, and the red has an 800
like
watt. This is different because this is a Fresnel. A blonde and the red head is usually open face, meaning there's no modifier.
Okay.
It's just blasting, it's just blasting harsh light.
Okay.
And it's very small usually. It's like this size. It's a very compact, very cheap fixture. So we have blondes and redheads, so 2 kV and 0.8 kV. So it's just two different, power levels. And the reason it's called blonde and redhead is because the 2 kV is painted, yellow, and then the redhead is red. So we just call them blondes and redheads. But it's really funny because somebody says, kill the blonde and bring me a redhead, and people are like, what did you just say?
So it's in the context, it's even better.
Yeah, in the context you understand, but when you hear it on set and you're not used to these types of things, like, what blonde do we kill?
Yeah.
I didn't sign up for this,
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So we have stinger. A stinger is a power cord, basically extension cord.
Okay. Nice.
I guess stinger because it can sting somebody in some ways. The power can sting.
Maybe it looks like a stingray.
Yeah, like a snake or something. Yeah.
Okay, just in case you were lost at any point there, with the KVs and stuff, I've got no idea what he's talking about as well. I'm just nodding my head, and we'll just continue. I'll just ask the next question, and we carry on. So I want to know a little bit about your background, because we know the far background, but then more your career path, because I know that there's a bit of an interesting story with film school. How did you? Maybe let's go like sort of college and then onwards.
Yeah. So basically, as many may know, there is no straight line in film as to how to get to what you want to do.
Because like with a doctor, you have a very specific...
Yeah, you have this, and then you're a resident, and you do the,
you have
2
to
years,
do
3 years.
sciences, and then university, X amount of years, then...
So same with pilots, doctors, lawyers. They all have a way of doing things, and you have to like get verified on every step. Well, in film, if you do it, it means you did it right. And if you didn't, it means you didn't, right? That's simple. So, and that's also my case, because I have started to work in film without any kind of film education. Like I didn't go to any film school when I started to work in film. I've been working for, quite a long time before I even went to film school. I was, as you may know, I started in Hungary and not in Poland. And then after working, I came to Poland. I wanted to, try film school. I wanted to see how it looks. So I went to Łódź Film School, which is one of the better film schools in Poland.
Well, probably in Europe. I mean,
or in Europe.
It's a very well-renowned school. Yeah.
And I studied there for a year. Basically, I experienced how it is to be, in film school. I met some people. To say I've learned a lot would be a far fetch, or a far stretch, but for sure I've learned something.
Okay.
And then I went back to, to the industry.
Do you mean you learned like a lot, some bits of lighting, or you mean you learned more like how to party and student life? And
I think I've learned how to party, and I've learned how to work in a different environment, because now I was working in Poland and I was working in a new country. I was not working in an English-speaking country.
Okay.
I was working in a Polish-speaking country, which I am half Polish, by the way, but I was never living in Poland before.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in Hungary. I was, raised there. I went to school there. So I didn't know work Polish before.
Okay, yeah.
So it was a challenge for sure to learn the Polish lingo for stuff, because in Polish there's also lingo for
I'm sure.
for this kind of all the things. So yeah, it was a interesting way of working and then studying and then working again.
Nice. Okay. I mean, so to get more into your actual work and kind of talk about some of the projects that you've worked on, because I mean this is the meat. This is what the people want to know. Can you go through some of like your biggest projects, your proudest projects? I mean, I know that there is one that's specific that we'll talk about, which is the Mitsubishi one, yeah. But can you just tell us some of like the biggest, proudest portfolio pieces that you have?
Yeah. So when I was working in Hungary, it was a different, I think, type of work. I was doing more narrative, so not a lot of ads.
Mm-hmm.
What you have to know is that ads have more money for a given, shot, let's say, or amount of shooting time, and narrative usually has less budget. Doesn't matter how big of a scale it is. So basically, I was doing quicker projects, meaning I was shooting, I was working on a series or some kind of feature. And when I moved to Poland, it became more of a commercial word. Doesn't mean I stopped working on features, but means I started to do, also projects where I could do, have a lot of time and resources for one shot.
Yeah.
So as soon as I moved to Poland, I think almost immediately I started to work on a Netflix feature. It's called Good Grief, with a good friend of mine, Kuba Zagajewski, who is a Polish DP. He's now studying in LA at AFI.
Wow.
He's one of the most talented people I know, and if anyone's gonna be the next generation of amazing cinema, that's your guy.
Okay. Cool.
So
we've got to get him on the podcast. Just remind me, get him on the podcast.
Oh yeah. As soon as he's actually gonna be back in like a week from LA for the holiday season.
Oh, perfect.
So you can catch him. So we shot Good Grief immediately when I moved to Poland. And then I've started to do commercials. I've done commercials for shoe brands. I've done all kinds of, basically everything that you could like sell or see. And then I've shot a lot of, while I was in film school, I went back to narrative again. I've shot many, student short films. Student short films are just like short films, except you kind of have to force people to stick to standards because they want to, do everything no matter what. That and you kind of, as a gaffer, you're the person who forces them to be safe and not do things that they would regret later.
Okay, nice.
So I even have a list of
Yeah,
Like,
I'm curious about like your top 5 proudest, or you know, what people would consider like the biggest, I don't know, achievements, like portfolio pieces.
yeah.
Because I also know that you're a very modest guy, and the people just want the juice and be like, oh, this guy, you know, I want to be able to put on our thumbnail that we have a Netflix or, you know, whoever. I need to know how to sell this.
Yeah, so we've done ever since I was working in Poland. I've done the Mitsubishi electric one, which was I think one of the biggest rigging jobs in Poland like ever. I had to get my friend Key Grip. A Key Grip is a person who is like the most professional person when it comes to mounting and installing equipment on like cranes and in studios. So like truss rigging. Um, and I had to get him from LA to construct this for us because it was such a huge construction
Okay.
that there was no specialized person in Poland to
do that.
to do it. Yeah, and
So Hollywood came to Poland.
yeah,
Basically.
Hollywood came
You
to
brought
Poland.
Hollywood to
Yeah,
Poland. Okay.
yeah,
Maybe that's the title.
yeah. And then we have done also an ad for Snuvio. Snuvio is a mattress company, but it was also a very interesting project. We've done a Samsung commercial, a SoFood one, which is like packaged goods, some whiskey commercials. We've done one for Yves Saint Laurent. For sure, I'm pronouncing it really badly, and my girlfriend will kill me later for it because I don't know anything about these companies.
No matter how hard you tried, the French would still be, you know, giving you grief. So
Yeah, and I've done workshops with Pavel Adelman, for example, in Łódź. He's the DOP of The Pianist. If you know The Pianist, he's a great guy. He's one of those people who have done so much by now, and still remain to be close to earth and not let their
the ego,
just flow over and be close to people's opinions. Therefore. So yeah, we've done. The reason I always say we is because I don't think of myself as the guy who lit it. It's without my team, I couldn't. It's like 20 people.
Let's talk about that, because we know that filmmaking takes a village. You know, it's a team sport, and like I think it's an interesting journey that you take, because usually, like most people, they start out as a freelancer, and freelancing can be quite lonely.
Yeah.
And you feel like you're doing everything. But then as soon as you start working on slightly bigger projects, the team grows quite quickly, because you've got someone, even if you've got the client looking over your shoulder, they're chipping in. All of a sudden you've got some collaboration. You've got someone who's going to be doing photos, and or even if you're shooting weddings, you've got a photographer and a videographer, and you're figuring out how to make it work. So you mentioned I'm assuming you're a team player. Tell us a little bit about how it is working with a team, and I also know that you've kind of assembled a bit of an A team yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. It's I think one of the biggest positives or biggest like the most important thing when it comes to a gaffer is also his team, because how good his team is shows how good he is himself, and if he has capable people with him, that means he's himself capable. So basically how I assembled my team over the years was, whenever I had, smaller projects, less demanding, let's say, I basically, met different people, different lighting technicians or board operators, or key grips or best boys, you name it. And I've basically cherry picked some of these people who weren't only the best at what they do, but also have the correct approach of a, safe way of doing things, and not being, not creating a toxic work environment, because
it can get stressful, right? And it can easily
the way you work and the way you treat the crew and each other has a direct impact on the end product.
Of course.
Like nobody can deny that. Some people might want to, but that's how it works. You have to, have a good vibe. You have to, maintain a good relationship with the crew.
Yeah. You mentioned that you cherry picked these people. I want to get more into the actual pragmatics of that. Like so you spoke to a guy and said, let's add each other on Insta, maybe let's work together in the future, or you said, I'm building a team, I'm going to have an agency or whatever it is. You know, how does that work? Because, and the reason why I ask is, this is probably something that I've not been very good at, or you know, as Trio Stories is like a production house that's kind of now just recently like celebrated its 5th year of existence. Like, we still haven't been very good at being able to build a team. It's very difficult. So I want to ask for our listeners, like, how practically, how did you go about it?
So for me, the easiest way to find these people is to get to know them also personally and not just from a work standpoint. The way I approach this is you can change how much a person knows about a subject. You can train technicians to be better, but you cannot change someone who has a, you know, impulsive personality or somebody who is not a good team player. You cannot change the way a person is.
It's much more difficult.
It's
anyway.
much more, it's much more easy to just, you know, okay, maybe he has only worked for like 1 year. I don't care. He's a person who I like to work with. I feel really confident that whatever I ask him, he will do it. If he doesn't understand something, he will ask. And he has, you know, the capabilities to understand in which situations he can have, you know, his ideas delivered to me, and in which moments it's not appropriate to, let's say on set, you know, when we have no more time to shoot, and he, you know, I need people who are
reliable,
easy to work with,
and
and I actually prioritize the type of person over experience and knowledge of that person, because knowledge will come with time.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Of course, yeah. You can't teach some of those values.
Yeah.
How big is your team, like the regular team? How many people are we talking about?
So usually, I like to have the most important people in lighting, you know, the same, so that I can, you know, trust them.
You have a workflow.
Yeah, and to have the workflow. So usually that means I have a best boy that we just talked about, and I have my key grip.
Okay.
Those are the two people that, if I have to substitute for new people, it has a dramatic impact on the speed and on the way I work. So, you know, my person from rigging and my person from electrics. And then the third person, who is also important, is my board operator. A board operator is just the guy who sits behind the desk and programs all the lights. When there's like more sequencing and effects needed, he has the knowledge to, you know, make any effect possible. These people basically come from the concerts and AV venue world, more from, you know, festivals and stuff. So they're just light programmers who make your dream come true.
Nice.
And these are the top 3 people
that you need. Like, these are your absolute
I need to have my own. Or if I don't have my own, then I need to get to know the person before I work with the person. And then the technicians, the lighting technicians, they are, you know, great to have your own, because you know them and you know that they're capable and you know that you can trust them and that they will, you know, be safe. They will not do things that are unsafe. But the most important is going to be your key grip, best boy, and board operator.
Okay, so these are the people that you can't live without.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just wanted to give a shout out to my most reliable and favorite workers who have helped set this up today and are behind the camera now. Those guys know. Much love. And so, do you work as like an agency? Do you freelance with this team as part of it? Or are you all freelancers and you kind of like go Avengers Assemble, bang, for a specific project? How does it work?
It's Avengers. So basically...
Say no more.
we have, you know, if somebody is really good in lighting, that person will not be, you know, in one place, because usually projects come from different, you know, agencies and different, you know, countries and stuff. So if you want to be on the, you know, most interesting, you know, gigs, you have to be
it's quite
detached.
A fluid world, isn't it?
You have to be detached. You have to, I mean, not in a psychotic way, but you have to be detached from an entity. So, all my guys are freelancers. And basically, as soon as I get a date for a project, I call them up and ask, hey, are you available?
Yeah.
This is how much budget we have. You know, this is our budget. This is our requirements. This is how many days we'll be shooting. Do you want to do this?
So I guess you have your own agency.
Yeah.
And then people reach out to you and say, we want, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I have my reputation as a gaffer and as a rental.
And the team comes with that.
And
let's
that and
say.
yes, and people usually know that it doesn't, if they want something to be done the way that they expect me to do it, it's not enough to just hire me.
Yeah.
They have to, I have to have access to the way that I like to work, because that's how it turns out the way that they want it to turn out.
Because most of these people will choose you based on your portfolio or based on work that they've seen, and then you just say, well, in order to achieve this, I need 15 of my guys, this one.
It's not just me, it's it's people who know me and people who know how I like to do things.
Okay. I wanted to ask you then, now we've talked about past, kind of present, let's talk about future. What's your bucket list goal as a gaffer? Whether that's project, whether that's like just, what's the dream? What's the dream?
So basically, I would love to continue working on commercials and features because I enjoy both. I want to have a mix of these, because if you only work on commercials, you will be missing the artistic aspect. But if you're only working on features, you will be having no, social life and private life.
Yeah.
Because it's 6 days a week, for 4 months. That's not very healthy.
No.
I would love to, continue growing the rental, because I like having my own lights. It's, cherry picked of the units of lights that I really like. So that's the easiest way for me to have the equipment that's perfect for me.
We'll talk about the rental in a second as well. We'll add that.
And I would like to, continue visiting many countries, because my work has, helped me in visiting so many countries and seeing so many cultures and places, not just for free, but also being paid to travel is something that's
ideal.
It might be funny to some people, and it's still funny to me, because it's just perfect. I love to travel. I think in like a week, when I'm going to be flying to Budapest, I'm going to be doing a design for a studio lighting grid. And it's going to be my 39th flight this year.
Nice.
So
you've done some air miles.
Yeah. I've done some air miles. I have the status in every like airline, whatever.
Nice.
Part of my job. And I want to continue to explore the world with, by working. Because it's one of the more interesting ways to, see places.
I think it says a lot about a person who, when asked about like their wildest dream, in short answers, I just want things to stay as they are. Which means you're doing something right.
I haven't thought about it this way, but yes, that's true. Yeah. And if I, when it comes to a bucket list, the only thing I would have in my bucket list is to gaff a feature that is super lighting oriented.
Okay.
So when you, let's say, talk about, I don't know, Blade Runner 2049, that film wouldn't be half as good without the lighting that it has.
Lighting is like everything.
Yeah.
It's
and I would love to be making such a, movie where the whole storytelling basically relies on lighting and the visuals are 99% lighting.
Awesome.
I would love to do such a project.
Yeah. Really creative on lighting. So amazing. Yeah, and also, I mean, I know this is more of a personal dream, but hopefully we'll be flying small aircraft together as well.
That's our little side thing. Yeah. I would love to do my PPL.
Yeah, so we're both actually kind of have this dream of doing a private pilot's license. So we did say that hopefully one day we'll get to maybe film something flying together in formation or something.
Watch out for the Insta stories of like one plane and the other plane shot from the other plane.
Yeah, perfect. That would be ideal. Awesome. You mentioned your rental. You're kind of, I feel like you're smashing the business side of things as well, because you've got your agency, you've got, your reputation, your kind of company. I don't know really what to call it. You've also got a rental, and you're also a brand ambassador at Aperture. Yeah. So, well, tell us a little bit about that, about how that came about and what that means for you.
So I'm lucky enough that all the things I do in my life are business-wise, are connected to, or are just things that I would do anyways. So
nice.
The way I started lighting was not for profit. And then the same happened with Aperture. The way I started to work with Aperture was not for any financial or personal gain. It was just because I, liked those products in particular. And our collaboration just happened organically over time. Same with my rental. Anything I do just happens to be things I love to do. And I can't stress enough how, lucky I am for that reason.
But it's I'm a strong believer that you make your own look as well, and what you've kind of created is like this perfect ecosystem, balanced ecosystem, like a perpetuum mobile kind of thing. Like you've got your Aperture sends you lights to test and to try out and stuff, and obviously you build up a collection of lights as well, but you probably use them on set, so their reputation kind of latches onto your reputation, and that's win-win for you, win-win for them. Then you've got your rental because these lights are lying about. Well, it would be a shame for them not to make money.
Exactly.
So it's very clever. It's very hats off.
I've met with the guys from Aperture in Poland actually like 3 years ago on Camera Image Festival. It's one of the more well-known gem festivals of Poland.
The one in Bydgoszcz and Toruń.
Yes. Now I think it was like in Łódź 30 years ago, and then Bydgoszcz, and now it's for like 10 to 15 years. I'm not sure. It's in Toruń.
Okay.
I just went up to their stand and I was like, hey, I have a rental, I have your lights,
Nice.
I love this stuff. And I ended up not even going to film screenings. I just talked with them for like 5 days there on the stand. And when their next trade show came, they asked me if I want to come along. They bought me a plane ticket. We flew to Amsterdam. That's where we actually met.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was not this show. It was like way back, but it was at this show that I was, first working with them, not just, working with their gear.
Yeah. So if there is an unusual lesson to be learned from listening to this podcast, and if you're still listening this far in, then you deserve this nugget of wisdom, is go to these trade shows. The IBC in Amsterdam is where we met. It's also where David started his relationship with, at Camera Marsh, who started your relationship with Aperture. These places are just gold mines for meeting people that, have goals that align. And it's like, I hate the word networking. I don't like it. I feel like you're assuming that there's a give and take that is very transactional. Look, where the way we met, it wasn't like that at all. We were actually just both kind of working. We were a bit, bored maybe, started chatting. It's so casual, and now, we're able to do this, which is amazing. And hopefully we get to work on a film project in the near future as well.
And it's so fascinating how the film world works in a way that you never know in what context you will be having an interaction or, some kind of anything with the person. So like, we met at, IBC, and we just talked about, lights or traveling. And then we are here in Warsaw, Poland, recording a podcast. It's uncanny. Like you never know what's going to be the next thing.
Absolutely.
We might be picking corn in Azerbaijan in 2 days. Who knows?
Well, I'm hoping that you will be there in Vegas in April. So I'm hoping we'll be playing the roulette at the same table. NAB?
NAB? Yeah, I was actually at NAB also.
Okay.
I missed Cinegear this year, but I don't want to miss it next year. So I want to go to NAB again.
So hopefully see you there. And then if there's another lesson, all on black. So.
Yeah. Actually, NAB was like a beautiful time of the year for me because we've done a road trip from California to Utah, Nevada, and Arizona with Cuba, actually, the
Amazing.
DP. And on the way back, we just went to Las Vegas. I did an AB with Aperture, and then we drove back to LA. So it was one of the nicest road trips ever.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to just have a quick look if we are missing anything. Okay, yeah. So we're coming to the end. That's the good news. I wanted to ask you about some advice because we've kind of had little pieces of wisdom, obviously, but I wanted to ask you for some advice for not just for people who want to become a gaffer, because maybe people don't know that yet, but for creatives, people who want to pursue a creative career. Anything at all?
So I think this can be taken away as film advice, not just as lighting advice. In general, if you love this stuff, if you love doing film or if you love doing lighting, then you should get into it, because if you love it, that means you have, what it takes to push through people trying to talk you out of it, or push through, harder financial, times, or to push through long work hours.
Yeah.
If you are doing it in a way that you looked up how much, a person in film makes, that can be an actor or a gaffer or a director, and you're doing it because you have to work and do something, then I don't think you will ever,
Succeed.
It's just impossible. It's a hard enough job that it will just grind you out and eat you up if you don't like it enough. And but at the same time, if you like doing it, then I think it's one of the most interesting professions that you can ever choose. It's something that you should not give up on if you like it.
Amazing. That's cool. That's awesome advice.
Yeah, and I think once you get into film, if you have managed to do that, you have to take care of yourself. It's not a forgiving business. You have long work hours, you have things to carry. You need to, really respect your safety. You need to learn how to, lift heavy things. You need to learn how to say no to projects, to producers, to
work-life balance.
Yeah, work-life balance. How to say no to, 20 hours overtime. How to say no to people when they don't want to make a mandatory break or lunch break on set. When you've been working for 16 hours straight, you need to have your, your own boundaries professionally.
Sure.
And because you want to do this for a long time, I suppose. So you have to keep it sustainable.
Could you tell us one of your juiciest anecdotes? Like, I want a couch to create a special, not heard before, just something. It can be funny, it can be dangerous, ideally both. Anything at all that comes to your mind as like a juicy story to share about your time as a gaffer.
I'm not sure if it qualifies as juicy, but for sure it is weird.
Okay, I like the sound of this.
I have done a lot of video clips or music videos in Poland, and usually these music videos are more artistic than other projects. And by artistic, I also imply weird.
Okay.
Not just artistic, but also weird. And because it usually comes hand in hand sometimes.
Yeah, and also I just want to mention here, because again, David has been very modest. He's worked with some of the biggest artists on the Polish music scene, just so that's clear. Continue.
And what we have done, it was, I think, 1 or 2 years ago in winter in Warsaw. We have done a whole shooting day. We were like wrapped ready. We had the footage. And what we did the next day was we went up in minus 15-degree weather in like 20 centimeters snow onto the rooftop of Novotel in Warsaw. Somehow production carried a horse on up to the rooftop, a live horse. We have installed a projector, and we proceeded to project the previous day's footage onto the horse at night on top of the Novotel in Warsaw at winter. And we recorded this.
And the horse was running or stationary?
It was just stationary. It was just, I think it was doubting why it even exists at that point.
Okay.
But
how tall is this place, are we saying? Like
it was like 15 stories.
15 stories, okay.
And
Do you know how the horse got up there or not?
I have no clue. The thing is, you can drive up there with a car, but it's like, 2 meter, max height, which is a passenger vehicle, but the horse doesn't fit in a passenger vehicle.
So they had to walk.
I think even a horse is more than 2 meters.
Yeah, so they had to like somehow.
So how would, I think it was like a crane or something. I'm not sure. I don't know how the horse got there, but to me it was one of the funniest moments of like projecting already recorded stuff onto the horse and then re-recording that.
Okay.
It was just one of the most absurd moments.
Did it make
of my career.
Did it make the final clip?
Yeah, of course. I might be able to find it for you later.
Okay, awesome.
It's so funny. It was one of the most like, what am I even doing? Moments.
I love that. I think that's the perfect story as well, aspirational story to end today's episode on. So thank you so much for listening in, hopefully watching if you were watching this podcast. Thank you so much to the crew, and of course thank you to the wonderful David for coming and joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you so much, mate.
And
action.
Cut. You were recording, right?